In the farthest corner of the kingdom of Luthien, where the hills rolled like a slow sea and the grass whispered in the wind, there was a village so small that it was not marked on any map. The villagers called it Bramble Hollow, for the bramble bushes that grew in great, tangled knots at its edges, heavy with purple berries in the summer. In Bramble Hollow, there lived a young man named Cael. He was not remarkable in any way, at least not to those who passed him in the lane. His hair was the soft brown of sun-warmed earth, his eyes the shade of weathered wood. He spent his days mending fences, feeding goats, and walking the narrow paths between meadow and forest. But Cael had a habit that set him a little apart. Each evening, when the sky turned the color of old rose petals and the mist began to curl low over the ground, he would take his lantern and wander. He didn't wander far, just far enough that the voices of the village faded into the hum of the crickets and the soft sigh of the trees. The lantern was an old thing, handed down from his grandfather. Its frame was dented, its glass scratched, but when lit, it gave off a warm, steady light that never seemed to falter, even in wind or rain. Cael could never explain why he felt drawn to carry it each night. He only knew that it gave him a sense of listening, as if the world around him was full of words too quiet for most ears, and the lantern somehow helped him hear them. One evening in late autumn, when the brambles were bare and the air smelled faintly of wood smoke, Cael wandered farther than usual. The mist was thick that night, turning the trees into pale, ghostly silhouettes. He followed a path he had never taken before, narrow, lined with moss, and lit only by the faint glow of his lantern. After what felt like an hour, he came to a clearing he did not recognize. At its center stood a stone arch, covered in lichen, with carvings so worn they were almost unreadable. Beyond the arch, the mist seemed denser, almost silver in color, shifting in a way that made it hard to tell if it was moving toward him or away. As Cael stepped closer, the light in his lantern brightened, not in a flicker, but as though something within it was answering a call. He felt an odd pull in his chest, as if the air beyond the arch was gently tugging him forward. Then he heard it, a voice, so faint he almost thought it was the rustle of leaves. Cael. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a command. It was simply his name, spoken as though by someone who had been waiting a very, very long time. He tightened his grip on the lantern. The warm light painted the mist in soft gold, and for a moment he thought he saw the shape of a figure standing just beyond the arch, tall, cloaked, and utterly still. The voice came again, softer now, like the sigh of the wind. Will you walk where the light leads? The air beyond the arch smelled different, cooler, cleaner, with a faint sweetness like rain on stone. Cael stepped forward slowly, the old lantern swinging at his side. The moment his boot crossed beneath the arch, the world behind him seemed to soften, as though someone had pulled a veil across it. He turned to look back. The path he had come along was still there, but the mist had thickened until it was like looking through milky glass. He could just make out the outline of the bramble bushes far in the distance, and the faint orange glow of a hearth fire from the village. But they felt impossibly far away. Ahead of him stretched a narrow road of pale flagstones, each one rimmed with moss. The mist lay low along the ground, curling between the stones as though it had weight. Above, tall trees arched overhead, their trunks silver gray and their leaves whispering without wind. The figure Cael had glimpsed before was nowhere in sight. Only the sound of his own steps filled the air, along with the steady glow of the lantern. It wasn't frightening, not exactly, but it was listening. That was the word that kept returning to him. The trees, the road, the very mist seemed to be listening to his presence. He walked for what might have been minutes or hours. Time felt uncertain here. Every so often, he thought he heard something ahead. The soft clink of metal, the faint ripple of water, or the hush of cloth against stone. But whenever he rounded a bend, there was only more road, more silver mist. At last, he came to a small bridge of white stone arching over a narrow stream. The water was clear, but it did not ripple or flow. Instead, it lay perfectly still, reflecting the lantern light like polished glass. On the far side of the bridge stood an ancient willow tree, its trunk twisted and its long branches trailing like green silk in the air. And there, leaning against the trunk, was the figure. They were taller than Cael had expected, wrapped in a dark cloak that seemed woven from shadows themselves. Their face was hidden by a hood, but their voice, when it came, was as clear as the first drop of rain in still air. "You have brought the light," they said. "Few remember that it must be carried. Fewer still remember why." Cael swallowed, unsure if he should speak. His lantern seemed to glow brighter still, its warm light spilling over the stones, over the still water, over the willow's roots. "What is this place?" he asked at last. The figure tilted their head slightly, as if considering how to answer. "It is the road between, the way the world keeps its promises. And tonight, it has opened for you." "Why me?" A faint laugh, quiet and without mockery. "That, Cael of Bramble Hollow, is what you will have to walk to learn." They stepped away from the willow and began to cross the bridge, their movements slow but without hesitation. Over their shoulder, they said, "Follow, if you wish to see where the light leads. But be warned, the road will change you, and you will not walk it alone." The mist beyond the bridge seemed deeper, tinged with a faint shimmer like starlight caught in fog. The lantern in Cael's hand pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. He stepped forward. The bridge was cool under Cael's boots, its white stone faintly damp as though it had been carved from a cloud that still remembered the rain. The cloaked figure walked ahead with a measured pace, each step leaving no mark on the damp stone. The moment Cael set foot in the center of the bridge, the lantern's light deepened, not brighter, but warmer, as though the flame within had found a hidden well of strength. He glanced down at the stream below, and his breath caught. It was no ordinary water. Beneath its still surface, shadows drifted, not the kind that came from trees or rocks, but the shapes of people. Faces. Some were smiling faintly, some seemed to be sleeping, and others were turned away, half-hidden. They floated slowly as if carried by a silent current, though the water did not move. Cael slowed his pace. "Who are they?" he asked quietly. The figure ahead did not turn. "Those are memories the world has set aside, moments that were too heavy or too bright to keep in the waking day. They rest here until they are ready to return." The lantern light touched the water, and a few of the shadow faces turned toward it. One, a woman with silver hair and eyes like stormlight, looked directly at Cael. She did not speak, but something in her gaze felt familiar, almost like looking into the eyes of someone you had dreamed of once, long ago, and never quite forgotten. Cael wanted to ask more, but the figure ahead was already stepping off the bridge. He quickened his pace and followed, the mist curling around his ankles like soft threads. Beyond the bridge, the path narrowed into a tunnel of willow branches. The air was filled with a soft rustle, not only the movement of leaves, but something beneath it, as if the trees themselves were murmuring words too quiet to hear. Every so often, a single leaf would drift down, spinning lazily before landing in the lantern's light, where it would gleam with a faint golden edge before fading into green again. The figure finally slowed and spoke without turning. "Every road between worlds must have a keeper, the one who guides the travelers, who tends the lights, who ensures that those who should not pass do not." Cael frowned slightly. "And you are the keeper?" A pause, then a soft chuckle. "For now." They stepped aside, and the path opened into another clearing. This one ringed with pale stones and scattered with hundreds of tiny lights. At first, Cael thought they were fireflies, but as he drew closer, he saw they were actually lanterns, each one different. Some made of crystal, others of bronze, some simple as a hollowed gourd with a candle inside. They hung from tree branches, rested atop stones, floated in the air, or sat in the grass. The sight was so strange and so gentle that Cael forgot to speak. He simply stood there, letting the glow sink into him. The figure turned to him at last. Though their hoods still shadowed their face, Cael felt the weight of their gaze. "You carry one of the oldest," they said. "But even the oldest flame needs tending, and the road has chosen you to carry more than you came with." They gestured to the lanterns all around. Choose one to take with you, but choose carefully. Each light remembers something different, and it will change the way you walk. Cael stepped slowly into the circle of lights. The air here was warmer, touched by the soft scents of wood smoke, pine, and something faintly floral he couldn't quite name. Each lantern gave off not only a different hue of light, gold, silver, amber, pale blue, but a subtle presence like a heartbeat felt in the quiet between sounds. The cloaked figure did not follow him in. They remained at the edge of the clearing, still as a stone, waiting. Cael moved among the lanterns. Some glowed like embers in a hearth, and when he passed, he caught glimpses of laughter and firelight in the back of his mind. Echoes of warm nights, shared bread, and gentle voices. Others burned with a cooler gleam, and as he neared them, he felt the rush of high winds, the sharp bite of snow, the thrill of standing alone atop a mountain's edge. One lantern, small and unadorned, seemed to whisper directly into his thoughts. It smelled faintly of the sea, though no ocean lay within 100 miles of Bramble Hollow. In its light, he saw the image of a tall ship on an endless horizon, its sails catching a wind that never faltered. The sight stirred something restless in him. Another lantern, tall with glass, so clear it seemed like water, was different. When Cael's hand hovered near it, the world around him seemed to hush. Its light was steady, soft, and in it he glimpsed not images, but feelings, patience, stillness, and the sense of a long road walked without hurry. He found himself torn between the two. The small sea-scented light that promised motion and the tall water-clear lantern that promised calm. From the edge of the clearing, the figure's voice came, low but carrying. Whichever you take, it will walk with you. It will keep you in its memory, as you will keep it in yours. But the road may show you differently than you expect. Cael crouched by the two lanterns, his old one still warm in his left hand. He thought of Bramble Hollow, its slow days and quiet fields. He thought of the arch in the mist, of the stream's shadowed faces, of the whisper in the trees. Finally, he reached out and touched the sea-scented lantern. The moment his fingers closed around its handle, a faint breeze rose in the still air of the clearing. The scent of salt grew stronger, and the grass under his boots seemed to sway, as if beneath unseen waves. His old lantern flared once, its light mingling with the new, and then the two flames settled into a steady twin glow. The cloaked figure stepped forward, the mossy ground not making a sound under their feet. The road will now lead you toward the waters, they said. But the waters you find may not be the ones you expect. They turned toward a narrow gap in the trees, where the mist swirled in slow spirals. Gulme, the night is still young, and the road listens for you. Cael glanced back once at the circle of lights. The other lanterns glowed steadily, indifferent to his choice, and yet he felt certain they knew it. Then he followed the figure into the mist once more. The gap in the trees was narrow enough that the branches brushed Cael's shoulders as he passed. The mist beyond was cooler, tinged now with a faint silver-blue glow that made the ground seem to ripple faintly underfoot. For a while, there was only the sound of their footsteps, the quiet tread of his boots, and the near-silent glide of the cloaked figure ahead. But then Cael's ears caught something else, soft and far away. A hush and roar, a slow breathing that rose and fell like a giant slumber. He knew the sound before his mind named it. Waves. His heart gave a small, startled leap. Bramble Hollow had no coast. The nearest ocean lay many weeks' journey away, beyond hills, forests, and rivers. Yet here, deep in this strange inland road, he could hear the sea as clearly as if he stood on its shore. They walked on. The sound grew clearer, more layered. Cael could almost hear the swish of foam against rocks, the low cry of gulls wheeling overhead. The scent of salt deepened, twining with the cool air until it seemed to seep into his skin. At last the trees thinned, and they came to the edge of a slope. Below lay not an ocean, but a great expanse of silver mist stretching to the horizon. It shifted and swelled like a living thing, and the sound of waves rolled up from it in slow, deep rhythm. Cael's breath caught, "What is it?" The figure stood beside him, their hood turning slightly toward the sight. "A place the road keeps for those who need to learn the shape of longing. It shows you the sound before you see the shore." Cael frowned faintly. "So, there's no ocean down there?" The figure was silent for a moment. "Not yet." Before Cael could ask what that meant, they began to descend the slope, the mist swallowing their boots within a few steps. Cael followed, the twin lanterns in his hands casting overlapping circles of gold light on the pale ground. The air grew damper as they went, and the sound of waves grew louder until it was all around him, filling his bones. At times, the mist seemed to thin, revealing fleeting shapes, the curve of a dune, the glint of moonlight on a wave's crest, only for the image to melt away again like a dream upon waking. After a time, the figure stopped beside a large stone half buried in the mist. Upon its surface was carved a single spiral, weathered but still deep enough to catch the light. The figure turned to Cael. "Every traveler on the road will meet this place. Some hear the sea and turn back. Some walk into it and are never seen again. And some," they said, their voice quiet but steady, "carry the sound with them until they find the true shore." They stepped aside, leaving the path ahead open. "This is where you choose which you will be." Cael felt the weight of both lanterns in his hands. The sea-scented one pulsed gently, almost urging him forward. The old one from his grandfather glowed steady, a reminder of fields, hearths, and home. The mist ahead shifted, and for a moment he thought he saw the faint outline of a ship's mast far in the distance. The sound of the waves seemed to grow louder with each of Cael's breaths, though the mist ahead looked as still as untouched snow. He stood at the edge, boots damp from the silver dew, both lanterns warm in his hands. Behind him, the slope rose back toward the trees where the cloaked figure waited. They did not move to hurry him, nor did they turn away. Their presence was steady, like the silence between waves, a silence that waited for the next swell. Cael took a small step forward. The mist shifted beneath his foot, not like air, not like water, but something in between, a surface that gave and yet held, as though it knew the shape of the one walking upon it. The sea-scented lantern brightened, casting long ripples of gold over the pale expanse. With each ripple, the sound of waves seemed to deepen, resonating in his chest. He looked back once at the figure. "If I walk out there, will I find a shore?" A pause. "Then you will find a shore. What it is will depend on the steps you take to reach it." The words were both answer and riddle. But Cael felt the pull of the horizon, the same restless hum he had felt ever since touching the sea-scented lantern. It was not an urge to leave Bramble Hollow behind in defiance, but in the quiet certainty that somewhere ahead lay something he was meant to see. He stepped fully onto the mist. It gave way beneath his boots in soft, soundless swells. The air grew cooler, and the gull cries he had thought imagined now echoed faintly overhead. The figure followed at a distance, their dark shape barely disturbing the glowing haze. They moved with the calm of someone who had crossed this way countless times. As they walked, shapes began to rise from a mist. First low mounds, like sandbanks revealed at low tide. Then darker silhouettes, driftwood, perhaps, or old posts long worn by water. Cael noticed that when the lantern light touched these shapes, some dissolved instantly, while others held solid for several steps before fading again. "Are they real?" he asked over his shoulder. "They're as real as your memory of them," the figure replied. The mist ahead thickened suddenly, and through it came a slow, deep boom, the sound of something striking water. Another followed, closer this time, vibrating through the ground beneath his feet. And then, as the haze parted for a moment, Cael saw it. A vast, shadowed shape in the distance, its sails dark against a pale, low-hanging moon. It moved with the slow inevitability of a tide, though no wind stirred. Cael stopped without meaning to. His heart quickened. "That's a ship." The figure's voice was softer now. "It is the one that sails this road sea. It does not come for every traveler." Cael stared at the ship, its silhouette growing clearer with each breath. Something in him, A thread he had not known was there seemed to tighten, pulling toward it. The ship's shape swelled against the horizon until it seemed less like it was approaching and more like the mist itself was revealing it. Its hull was black, but not in the way of tarred wood, more like the surface of deep water, catching faint reflections from lantern light and moon. Its masts rose high into the haze, rigging trailing like spider silk threads that vanished in a cloud. Cael slowed his steps. The mist beneath his boots trembled faintly, though there was no wind. Beside him, the cloaked figure spoke without looking away from the ship. "It does not stop unless it is called." Cael turned slightly toward them. "And if it is called, a pause, then it will take you where you asked to go, or where you truly meant to go. Those two are not always the same." The thought sent a small shiver up his spine. The ship drew closer still, and now Cael could hear the slow, deliberate creak of its timbers, the distant whisper of its ropes swaying. Its sails were full, yet no wind stirred the mist around them. "What'd I do to call it?" Cael asked. The figure gestured to the lanterns in his hands. "Raise the light. But once it sees you, it cannot unsee you. Whether you board or not will be your choice, but not without cost." He looked down at the two flames. His old lantern, steady and warm, the comfort of hearth and home. The sea-scented one, restless and urging forward, its light trembling as though it could barely hold still. Somewhere in the mist between him and the ship, a faint bell rang. Low and slow, like the toll from some sunken tower. The sound settled into his bones. He thought of Bramble Hollow, of the stone arch, of the silver-haired woman's face in the still stream. He didn't know if the ship would take him closer to her or farther away, but the pull toward it felt as certain as the pull of the tide. The figure's voice came again, softer now. "It is nearing the point where it will pass. Decide before it slips back into the roads forever." Cael took a breath, then another, and then, without letting himself think further, he lifted both lanterns high. The flames brightened together, gold rippling out across the mist in widening circles. The ship's bell rang again, closer this time. The creak of its timbers deepened into a groan as its shadow shifted, angling toward him. The figure at his side gave no sign of surprise, only said, "Then you have called it." Through the thickening haze, Cael saw movement along the ship's rail. Tall shapes, their outlines blurred by distance, watching him in utter stillness. The sound of the waves swelled. The ship moved without haste, yet each moment brought it closer, its sheer size pressing against the edges of Cael's sight. The creak of its timbers and the long, deep sigh of unseen waves filled the air. The mist curled back from its bow as though in deference, revealing dark planks glistening as if freshly rained upon. The figures along the rail resolved slowly into clearer forms. They were tall, all of them, and draped in coats and cloaks that seemed stitched from the night sky itself. Black, yet traced with faint, wavering lines of silver, like constellations drawn in motion. Their faces were hidden beneath shadowed brims and hoods, but their stillness was not that of statues. It was the stillness of a tide waiting to turn. One among them, standing at the highest point near the prow, raised an arm in greeting or perhaps acknowledgement. Their gesture was measured, neither warm nor cold. The cloaked figure at Cael's side inclined their head toward the ship. "They have seen your light. Few are given the choice to be seen." The ship's hull slid to a stop before him without a splash or ripple. A wide boarding plank lowered itself, though no crew moved to set it in place. It was as if the wood had extended of its own accord, seeking the shore Cael stood on. Up close, the ship was stranger still. Its rail bore carvings that shifted when he tried to look at them directly, sometimes curling into waves, sometimes into curling script in no language he knew. The scent of the sea was stronger now, layered with something older, like cedar wood in distant storms. The figure beside him said nothing more. It seemed they would not guide his choice this time. A shape moved at the top of the plank. It was one of the crew, and though the mist veiled their face, Cael felt an uncanny sense of familiarity. Not as though he had met them before, but as though they had once stood in a story he had half forgotten. Their voice carried easily over the quiet. "Light bearer, The tide turns for you. Will you walk aboard? Cael looked down at the 2 lanterns in his hands. The old one's glow was steady as ever. The sea-scented lantern's flame trembled, casting the faintest image of a cresting wave in its flicker. The plank seemed longer than it should have been, as though stepping onto it might stretch the moment into something unending. Behind him lay the road back to the arch ahead, the ship, its sails like caught clouds, waiting. Cael's boots met the wooden plank, cool and solid beneath him, though the mist curled at its edges as if reluctant to let him pass. The ship welcomed him with a quiet creak, as if recognizing a new rhythm to join its own. Around him, the crew moved with the grace of shadows, silent, purposeful, yet somehow infinitely patient. Their faces remained hidden beneath wide-brimmed hats and deep hoods, but when one glanced toward Cael, he felt the weight of unspoken stories, like pages held just beyond reach. The ship's decks stretched out in gentle arcs, polished darkwood gleaming under the faint moonlight filtering through the mist. Lanterns hung from curved posts, their lights soft but steady, each one carrying a flicker of something remembered and forgotten all at once. One of the crew, stepping forward, held out a hand wrapped in fine, worn leather gloves. "Welcome, Light Burr." The voice was calm, with a resonance that seemed to echo from both near and far. "You carry a flame that bridges worlds." Cael hesitated, then clasped the hand. The touch was cool, but steady, grounding him in the moment. The crew member nodded once, then gestured toward a curved stairway that disappeared below deck. "Kulme, there are things to see and to understand." As Cael followed, the mist outside seemed to part behind him, the sound of waves fading into a deep silence. The air below deck was warmer, touched with the scent of old books, saltwood, and a faint trace of lavender. The walls were lined with shelves holding countless objects, jars filled with glimmering sands, maps drawn on delicate parchment, strange instruments that seemed to measure not only time but memory itself. At the center of the room stood a large table, its surface carved with symbols that pulsed faintly with a soft blue light. Around it, other crew members gathered, their faces still hidden, but their presence solid and reassuring. The one who had welcomed Cael spoke again. "This ship sails the sea of forgotten roads, paths not taken, dreams deferred, stories that have yet to find their end. We are the keepers, the navigators, the watchers. And now, you are part of this voyage." Cael's heart thumped with a mixture of wonder and unease. "What was my place here?" The voice was gentle, patient. "To carry your light forward, to tend the flames that must not be lost, and to find the shore that waits for you, wherever it may be." The mist outside pressed softly against the windows, a silent promise of journeys yet to come. The room beneath deck was quiet except for the soft hum of the glowing symbols on the table. Cael's fingers brushed lightly over the carved runes. Each one seemed to ripple beneath his touch, like water disturbed by a gentle breeze. The crew gathered closer, their forms blending into the dim light, their voices low and steady as they spoke. "We are keepers of the forgotten," one said, voice like wind over smooth stone. "Our task is to navigate the sea of forgotten roads, a place where all lost hopes, untaken paths, and whispered dreams converge." Another added, "Every soul who journeys here carries a light. Some are strong and steady, others flicker with doubt. But each light has a story, and each story shapes the tides we sail." Cael glanced down at his 2 lanterns, the steady warmth of his old lantern from Bramble Hollow, and the restless sea-scented flame he'd chosen in the circle of lights. He felt the weight of both stories in his hands, intertwined like threads in a tapestry. "Why me?" Cael asked quietly. "Why was I given this choice?" A third keeper, their voice soft but sure, answered, "Because your heart carries both the comfort of home and the yearning for the unknown. The balance of those truths guides you through the mist." The first keeper smiled faintly, though the expression was hidden in shadow. "The journey will ask much. You will face tides of memory and currents of doubt. But you will not be alone." Cael swallowed. The ship seemed to pulse beneath his feet. Not just wooden sail, but something alive, something older than any story he had ever heard. "And the shore?" he pressed. "Is there a shore we seek?" The keeper's voices merged like a gentle wave. "There is always a shore. Some are places of arrival, some of departure. Some are beginnings, some are endings, and some are all of these at once." Outside, the mist thickened again, wrapping the ship in silver folds. The sea's sound, deep, endless, and strangely inviting, seemed to echo in Cael's chest. He knew this was only the beginning. The keepers led Cael to a small chamber at the ship's heart, where soft cushions were arranged around a low table scattered with maps and small glass vials. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and salt, comforting and strange all at once. One keeper produced a delicate map, its surface shimmering as if painted with liquid light. The map was not of any land Cael recognized, but rather a swirling tapestry of roads and paths made of mist and memory. "This is the chart of forgotten roads," the keeper explained. "It shifts with every traveler who crosses the sea. Paths that once seemed lost may reappear, and others vanish into shadow." Cael leaned forward, tracing a finger along a faint silver line that pulsed gently beneath his touch. "Are these choices?" "More than that," the keeper said softly. "They're echoes of what might have been and what still might be. Each road carries a story, and every traveler weaves their own into the fabric." Another keeper held up a small vial filled with sparkling sand that glowed faintly blue. "This is memory's dust," they said, "a fragment of moments forgotten by the world, memories lost in time or choice. We gather them to understand the tides that shape this sea." Cael's gaze flicked back to his lanterns. "And what if a memory is too painful to carry?" The first keeper's voice was gentle, almost a whisper. "Then the sea will hold it for you until you are ready to face it. The voyage is not just forward, it reaches back to gather what was left behind." Cael felt the weight of those words settle deep within him, like the calm that follows a storm's passing. The journey was no longer just about finding a shore. It was about understanding the waters beneath his feet and the stories carried on every wave. Outside, the mist curled against the ship's windows, hiding the endless sea that shimmered just beyond. With the chart of forgotten roads spread before him, Cael's fingers traced the shimmering lines again, now glowing softly beneath his touch. The keepers gathered close, their faces hidden but their presence steady like the ebb and flow of tides. "This sea does not move in straight lines," one keeper said, "nor does it follow time as you know it. To navigate it, you must learn to listen, not just to the waves, but to the quiet spaces between." Cael closed his eyes, breathing deeply. The low sound of waves pulsed through the ship, steady and rhythmic. Between the pulse came faint whispers. Voices from the mist, hints of forgotten hopes and dreams. "Focus on the light in your hands," another keeper said, nodding toward the lanterns. "They carry your story, your choices. The light will guide you where your heart must go." Opening his eyes, Cael lifted the sea-scented lantern. Its flame flickered wildly, casting shifting shadows on the walls. Slowly, the flame steadied, brightening as if responding to his focus. The chart's silver paths shimmered and shifted, aligning toward a narrow, winding road that had not been visible before. The keeper's voice was calm. "That is your path for now. Follow it, and the mist will part to reveal what you need to see." Cael nodded, determination settling in his chest. The voyage was no longer just a crossing. It was a journey into the heart of himself, through the roads that memory and choice had built. He felt the ship shift beneath him, the boards humming softly as the vessel began to move. The mist outside thickened, curling like smoke, and the sound of waves deepened into a steady roar. The road ahead was unknown. The shore, whatever it was, waited beyond the mist. The mist slowly thinned as the ship moved forward, revealing shapes rising from the gray like islands appearing through dawn's first light. Cael stood at the rail, watching the fog curl away to expose a strange shore, dark sand that shimmered with tiny sparks like stars scattered across the earth. The trees lining the coast were tall and slender, their branches woven into delicate arches that seemed to hum softly, as if alive with whispered secrets. The crew moved with practiced ease, securing ropes and lowering small boats to the water. One of the keepers approached Cael, their voice low but urgent. "We've come to the Isle of Whispering Shadows, a place where memories speak and secrets take shape." Cael felt a shiver of both wonder and caution. "What kind of secrets?" The keeper's gaze lingered on the shore. "Those we have left unspoken, those we have hidden even from ourselves. This I will show you what lies beneath." The ship anchored just offshore, and Cael stepped into a small boat, the oars dipping silently into the still water. As they approached the shore, the whispers grew clearer, soft voices that seemed to rise from the ground itself, weaving through the trees. When Cael set foot on the dark sand, the whispers coalesced into shapes, fleeting shadows of moments lost, faces half-remembered, emotions once buried. One shadow reached toward him, a delicate form shimmering with light and sorrow. It was a memory, he realized, not his own, but somehow intimately familiar. The keeper's voice echoed beside him. "To understand the road ahead, you must first listen to what the shadows say." Cael reached out gently, and the shadow folded into his hands, warm and real as a breath. Cael cradled the shimmering shadow in his hands, feeling its warmth pulse softly like a heartbeat. The whispers around him grew clearer, weaving together into threads of stories, some joyful, others tinged with regret. The keeper who had guided him spoke softly. "Each shadow is a fragment of a story left unfinished, a memory waiting to be understood or forgiven. They linger here in the quiet between moments." Cael looked closer and saw scenes flickering within the shadow. A child's laughter caught in a sunlit field, a whispered promise broken beneath a silver moon, a farewell that never found its words. "Why do these memories stay here?" Cael asked. "Because they hold power," the keeper replied. "They shape who we are, even when forgotten. Here, we learn from them to carry our lights forward without losing ourselves." As he watched, one shadow moved toward another, merging gently like waves blending in the sea. The combined form brightened, then dissolved into a soft glow that rose and vanished into the sky. Cael felt a gentle tug at his heart, the pain of what was lost and the quiet hope of what might still be found. The keeper placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "You carry not just your own light, but the echoes of many. This isle is but the first step in understanding the depths of the sea of forgotten roads." The mist began to creep back along the shore, the whispers softening as the ship's horn called in the distance. Cael took one last look at the fading shadows, then turned toward the boat, waiting to take him back to the ship. The journey was far from over. The small boat rocked gently as it drifted back toward the ship, the dark sand of the Isle of Whispering Shadows fading beneath the waves like a half-remembered dream. Cael sat quietly, the warmth of the shadow memory still lingering in his hands, a soft glow against the chill of the misty sea air. Around him, the whispers of the isle seemed to follow, now gentle murmurs in the distance rather than urgent voices. Back on deck, the keepers moved with serene purpose, tending to the ship as if it were a living thing, a vessel not just of wooden sail, but of stories and light. Cael found a quiet spot by the railing, staring out into the endless gray mist. The sea was vast and silent, an expanse that felt both infinite and intimate, like the space within a single breath. The steady flame of his old lantern flickered softly, a reminder of the home he'd left behind and the journey he had begun. The restless flame of the sea-scented lantern danced with an eager light, urging him forward into the unknown. He thought of the keeper's words, of roads not taken, memories held in shadow, and the shores waiting beyond the mist. What stories would he add to this voyage? What truths would the sea reveal? The ship shifted beneath his feet, ready to sail again. The mist curled closer, promising new paths, new echoes, and new light to carry forward. Cael took a deep breath, steadying himself for what lay ahead. The journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. The ship slipped through the mist like a shadow moving between worlds. The murmurs of the Isle of whispering shadows faded behind them, replaced by the endless hush of the sea of forgotten roads. Cael stood at the prow, his 2 lanterns glowing softly, casting gentle light on the swirling gray around them. The air was thick with salt and something else, a quiet promise, a distant call. The keepers moved silently among the sails, their cloaks catching the faintest gleam of moonlight. One approached Cael, holding out a small, worn book bound in deep blue leather. "This is the Codex of Lost Horizons," the keeper said. "Within its pages are the stories of travelers who came before, their hopes, fears, and the paths they chose." Cael took the book carefully, feeling its weight and age. The cover seemed to pulse with a subtle energy, as if alive with the memories of countless journeys. Opening it, he found the pages filled with delicate script and sketches, maps of places that shifted and changed, names written in languages both familiar and strange. As he read, a soft wind stirred the ship's sails, carrying with it a new whisper, faint, elusive, like the first breath of dawn. The keeper's voice was quiet but firm. "The next shore approaches. Prepare yourself, for each place holds its own truth, and each truth shapes the light you carry." Cael closed the book and looked out into the mist, feeling the ship move beneath him, a vessel of stories, sailing ever onward through the sea that held all roads forgotten and yet to be found. The mist thickened again, wrapping the ship in a shimmering curtain that softened all edges and blurred the horizon. Cael stood at the prow, lanterns in hand, their light steady but tinged with the silent thrill of approaching discovery. Through the veil, shapes began to emerge, slender towers rising like glass spires, their surfaces reflecting pale, shifting light as if made from threads of moonbeam and frost. The ship's movement slowed, a gentle hush falling over the crew. The keepers gathered silently, their cloaks folding around them like shadows drawn tight. A whispering wind carried faint melodies, a song without words that stirred memories long buried in Cael's heart. "This is the Silver Veil," a keeper said softly beside him, "a place where past and future shimmer together, where time flows like a ribbon caught in the breeze." Cael felt the weight of the moment, as if the shore itself was a question waiting to be answered. The ship drifted closer, the silver towers reflecting his lantern's flames, casting dancing lights upon the mist like echoes of forgotten dreams. "Are you ready to step into the veil?" the keeper asked gently. Cael tightened his grip on the lanterns, heart steady despite the unknown ahead. "Yes," he said, "I want to see what lies beyond." The moment Cael's boots touched the ground beyond the mist, the world shifted, light bending like liquid, colors folding and unfolding in soft waves around him. The silver towers rose above, their surfaces smooth and cool, reflecting not just the lantern light, but faint glimpses of moments yet to come and those long past. Around him, the air hummed with quiet music, a melody that felt both ancient and fresh, as if time itself had woven a song to welcome travelers who dared to cross the veil. The keepers moved alongside Cael, their steps silent on the polished ground that seemed to shimmer beneath their feet. One keeper pointed toward a narrow path winding between the towers, where images flickered, scenes of joy and sorrow, beginnings and endings, hopes spoken and left unsaid. "This place holds the threads of possibility," the keeper explained. "Here, your choices ripple across time, shaping not only your journey, but the stories of all who walk these roads." Cael's lantern flames flickered, responding to the shifting light around them, casting dancing shadows that seemed to whisper secrets in a language just beyond understanding. As he walked, he felt the weight of moments, decisions made, chances missed, futures dreamed, fold around him like a cloak woven from silver light. A gentle voice, neither here nor there, seemed to echo in his mind. To see the paths ahead, You must understand the steps behind. Cael took a deep breath, ready to face the reflections the silver veil would reveal. The path through the silver veil wound like a ribbon of liquid silver, curling between the towers that shimmered with quiet light. Cael walked slowly, the lantern flames in his hands casting gentle flickers on the polished ground. As he moved, images surfaced around him, moments from his past intertwined with glimpses of possible futures, each one shimmering like a ghost woven from light and shadow. He saw himself as a child in Bramble Hollow, laughing beneath the old oak tree, the sun dappling through leaves. Then, a choice to stay or to leave unfolded before him like a turning page. Nearby, a shadowed figure appeared, cloaked in mist, watching silently. Cael recognized the figure, a reflection of doubt, fear, and the unknown. "Why do you follow me?" Cael asked softly. The figure's voice was like wind through dry leaves. "Because you cannot escape what you carry inside. Your light casts both hope and shadow." Cael's grip tightened on his lanterns. "I want to understand." The figure nodded slowly, then faded into the silver mist. Ahead, the path opened to a small clearing where a pool of still water reflected the sky above, stars glittering even though the sun had yet to rise. Cael knelt beside the pool, gazing into his own reflection. Not just the face he knew, but the countless versions of himself shaped by choices, regrets, and dreams. A gentle warmth spread from his lanterns, and in the pool, the images shifted, showing moments of courage, kindness, and light that had shaped his journey as much as the shadows. The keeper's voice echoed softly. "To carry light, you must accept both shadow and flame. Only then can the path unfold before you." Cael rose, heart steady and clear. The silver veil had shown him not just what was lost, but what still could be found. As Cael left the pool's quiet reflection, the silver path stretched onward, curling through a garden of shimmering flowers that seemed to bloom from light itself. Each blossom glowed softly, petals shifting colors like whispers caught in the breeze. The air was filled with a delicate fragrance, familiar and strange, like a dream half remembered. A keeper stepped beside Cael, voice gentle. "This is the garden of lost moments. Here, the moments we almost had bloom forever, caught between what was and what might have been." Cael reached out, brushing a finger over a glowing flower. Images stirred in the petals. Laughter shared but never spoken, a hand almost held, a goodbye that never came. "Are these memories?" Cael asked. "Not quite," the keeper said. "They are moments of possibility, choices unmade, and paths left untaken. They remind us that even what we lose shapes the light we carry." A breeze swept through the garden, carrying the soft rustle of petals and distant song. Cael felt the weight of all those nearly lived moments, both beautiful and bittersweet, settle within him. His lanterns flickered in response, one steady, one restless, as if echoing the garden's quiet song. The keeper smiled, eyes reflecting the shifting light. "To journey forward, you must learn to carry the garden within, honoring the lost, embracing the light that grows from it." Cael nodded, heart swelling with a new understanding. The silver veil was not just a place of reflection, but a place of growth, where light and shadow intertwined to guide the way. The garden of lost moments slowly faded behind Cael as he followed the shimmering path deeper into the silver veil. The soft glow of the flowers lingered in his heart, a quiet reminder of the beauty found even in what never was. The mist around him began to thin, the silver light shifting into warmer hues of dawn. Ahead, the path opened onto a high terrace overlooking a vast expanse. The endless sea of forgotten roads stretching beyond the horizon, shimmering with countless possibilities. The keepers gathered silently, their faces serene, their presence a steady anchor in the shifting light. One keeper stepped forward, voice calm and sure. "You have walked through shadow and light, seen the threads of time woven before you. Now, the next chapter awaits." Cael raised his lanterns, their flames steady and bright, symbols of all he carried: the comfort of home, the spark of curiosity, the shadows of doubt, and the glow of hope. The wind carried a whisper, soft and clear, like a promise on the breeze. Your journey is yours to shape, and every step you take is a light upon the sea. With a deep breath, Cael turned back toward the ship, ready to sail into the unknown once more. The mist parted, the horizon called, and the sea of forgotten roads awaited. The ship's deck was bathed in the soft light of early morning, the mist retreating like a curtain pulled back to reveal endless possibilities. Cael stepped aboard, the familiar creak of wood beneath his feet grounding him even as his heart soared with anticipation. The keepers moved with quiet purpose, preparing the sails to catch the gentle breeze that whispered promises of discovery. Cael took his place near the helm, lanterns glowing steadily in his hands, beacons against the lingering shadows of the past. As the ship slipped away from the silver veil, the sea around them shimmered with hues of gold and rose, the horizon stretching wide and inviting. The air was thick with the scent of salt and hope, the steady rhythm of the waves a song of endless journeying. One keeper approached, holding out a small compass crafted from moonstone and silver. "This will guide you through the unknown," they said softly. "But remember, the true course lies within your own heart." Cael nodded, clasping the compass tightly. The voyage was far from over. Each wave, each gust of wind, each star overhead was a story waiting to be written, a road to be discovered in the sea of forgotten roads. With the sails full and the dawn brightening the sky, the ship sailed onward, into the mysteries of the morning and beyond. Days passed as the ship sailed through the gentle waves, the mist lifting slowly to reveal skies painted in hues of lavender and gold. Cael stood at the bow, eyes fixed on the distant horizon where a faint silhouette began to take shape. "It's the island of echoing dreams," one keeper whispered beside him, "a place where the hopes and fears of all travelers find voice in the air and water." As they drew near, Cael could hear soft murmurs carried on the breeze, whispers of laughter, sighs of longing, fragments of songs half remembered. The island itself seemed alive, the trees swaying in rhythm with the unseen chorus. The ship anchored in a quiet cove, and Cael stepped ashore, the sand beneath his feet warm and soft, glowing faintly like embers. The keeper led him through groves where dreamlike shapes danced just beyond sight, where every step echoed with stories waiting to be heard. "Here," the keeper said, "you'll face the dreams you carry, the ones that call you forward and those that hold you back." Cael felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The journey was opening doors not only to new lands but to the depths within himself. The soft murmur of voices surrounded Cael as he stepped deeper into the island's glowing groves. Each whisper seemed to carry a fragment of a dream, some joyful and bright, others tinged with doubt and shadow. Light filtered through the leaves, casting patterns that danced like memories on the ground. Shapes flickered in the corner of Cael's vision, figures made of mist and light, their faces shifting with the emotions they carried. One figure stepped forward, its eyes reflecting Cael's own hopes and fears. It spoke without words, sending feelings of longing, courage, and hesitation that rippled through the air. Cael reached out, heart pounding. "What do you want me to see?" The figure's form shimmered, showing flashes of moments when Cael had chosen to hope, and others when fear had held him back. "You carry both light and shadow," a keeper's voice said softly behind him. "To move forward, you must embrace all parts of yourself, the dreams and the doubts alike." Cael nodded slowly, feeling the weight of his journey settle in a new way. The island was teaching him that every step, every choice, was part of the story he was still writing. Guided by the keeper, Cael ventured deeper into the glowing groves, where the voices grew clearer. Not just whispers, but songs woven from the dreams of countless travelers who had passed through this place. The air shimmered with a gentle light, and as Cael moved, the ground beneath him transformed into a mirror-like surface, reflecting not only his form but the flickering images of his own hopes and fears. He saw himself standing at crossroads. Moments when he hesitated, moments when he dared, each choice sending ripples across the mirrored ground. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the reflection, a version of Cael shaped by his deepest fear, the fear of losing himself in the vast unknown. "Who are you?" Cael asked, heart steady despite the shadow before him. "I am the part of you that clings to certainty," the figure said softly. "But the voyage demands more, courage to face the unknown and trust in the light within." Cael reached out, the mirrored figure's hand meeting his own in a ripple of silver light. "I am ready to carry both light and shadow," Cael said firmly. The mirrored figure smiled, dissolving into the shimmering surface, leaving Cael standing stronger and more whole than before. The keeper's voice echoed gently. "Every dream holds both promise and doubt. To sail forward, you must carry them both as part of your light." Cael looked up, the island's glowing trees swaying gently, their song a lullaby for the journey ahead. The glowing trees of the island of echoing dreams shimmered softly in the gentle light of dawn, their whispers now calm and comforting. Cael stood amidst the grove, feeling the harmony of hope and fear balanced within him like a delicate melody. The keeper beside him smiled gently. "You have faced the voices within, embraced the light and shadow of your own heart. Now the island offers its blessing for the road ahead." From the earth at Cael's feet, a small glowing seed appeared, pulsing with warmth and life. This seed holds the essence of your journey here, a reminder that even in the unknown, new growth is possible. Cael accepted the seed carefully, feeling its steady pulse align with his own heartbeat. It was a promise, a light to carry into the mists and beyond. The ship's horn echoed faintly across the water, calling the voyagers home. Cael took a deep breath, the weight of the journey both settling and uplifting him. With the island's blessing and the seed of new beginnings in hand, Cael turned toward the shore, ready to sail once more into the endless sea of forgotten roads. The ship rocked gently as Cael stepped aboard, the glow of the seed pulsing softly in his palm. The morning light painted the deck in warm golds, and the sea stretched out endlessly, sparkling with possibility. The keepers moved with calm purpose, their eyes reflecting the quiet excitement of journeys yet to come. The sails unfurled, catching the breeze that whispered through the rigging, a song of freedom and discovery. Cael took his place near the helm, feeling the steady rhythm of the ship beneath his feet, the pulse of the seed in his hand a reminder of all he had learned and embraced. Ahead, the horizon beckoned, a canvas waiting to be filled with new stories, new roads forgotten and waiting to be found. One keeper leaned close, voice soft and sure. "Every step you take shapes the light you carry, and every road you travel weaves a new story in the tapestry of the sea." Cael nodded, heart steady, eyes bright. "I'm ready." With a gentle pull, the ship slipped forward, sailing into the endless mist, the journey unfolding like a dream that was still being written. The mist thickened around the ship once more, wrapping it in a cool, silvery cloak that softened all sounds and blurred the edges of the world. Cael stood at the railing, lanterns glowing softly in the gloom, their light reaching out like gentle beacons into the haze. Above, the sky was veiled in shifting clouds, but through the folds, faint points of light twinkled, stars that seemed to flicker in and out of existence, as if caught between waking and dreaming. "This is the mist of forgotten stars," a keeper said beside him. "Here, lost hopes and hidden dreams drift like embers in the dark, waiting to be remembered." The ship moved slowly through the mist, the air thick with a sense of quiet reverence and the weight of stories untold. Cael's heart beat steady as the lantern's flames danced, reflecting in the silvery haze around them. The mist began to part, revealing shapes just beyond sight, a cluster of small islands, their shores shimmering with soft light, as if touched by the stars themselves. The voyage was far from over. New mysteries awaited beyond the veil of mist and memory. The ship glided quietly toward the cluster of shimmering islands, each one glowing faintly under the watchful light of forgotten stars. The air hummed softly with unspoken stories, and the gentle lapping of waves was like a whispered lullaby. Cael stepped onto the first island, its sands sparkling like crushed gems beneath his feet. Around him, faint images flickered, moments from lives long past, memories held in the embrace of the stars. He saw laughter echoing across a distant shore, a mother's tender touch, a warrior's last stand beneath a fading sky. Each memory shimmered with both light and shadow, a reminder of the fleeting beauty of existence. A keeper's voice floated to Cael's ear. These islands hold the memories that time almost forgot, the hopes and fears that shaped worlds and hearts alike. Cael breathed deeply, feeling the weight and wonder of the place. Here, the past and present danced together, and every memory was a star lighting the night. Among the flickering memories, one shimmered brighter than the rest, a tender light weaving a story both fragile and fierce. Cael stepped closer, the soft glow wrapping around him like a gentle embrace. The vision unfolded before his eyes. A child, born beneath a sky blazing with stars, their small hands reaching toward the heavens as if to grasp the very light itself. The child's eyes sparkled with wonder, hope, and a hint of unspoken sorrow. The keeper beside Cael spoke softly. This is the memory of a star-born child, one who carried the light of the cosmos within and whose fate shaped the course of many lives. Cael watched as the child grew, their journey marked by courage and sacrifice, love and loss. The memory shimmered with the child's laughter and tears, their dreams woven into the fabric of the stars above. As the vision faded, Cael felt a quiet resolve settle within him. The light of the star-born child was a beacon, a reminder that even the smallest spark could shine through the darkest night. Cael stood quietly on the shore of the shimmering island, the memory of the star-born child glowing softly in his mind like a distant star guiding him through the night. He felt the weight of the child's courage, their light flickering against the shadows of loss and uncertainty, a testament to the strength found in hope even when the path is unclear. The keeper's voice came gently, as if carried on the breeze. Every light, no matter how small, holds the power to illuminate the darkest places. Your journey is no different. Cael took a deep breath, letting the calm resolve settle within his heart. The sea of forgotten roads stretched endlessly before him, filled with mysteries and moments yet to be discovered. The glow of the star-born child's memory mingled with the pulse of the seed from the island of echoing dreams in Cael's hand, a steady rhythm of light and promise. As the ship prepared to leave the island behind, Cael looked once more to the twinkling stars above, the forgotten stars, now remembered and shining bright. The ship's sails caught the gentle wind as Cael stepped back aboard, the glow of the seed pulsing softly in rhythm with his heartbeat. Around him, the crew moved with quiet purpose, their faces touched by the serene light of the islands left behind. The mist of forgotten stars swirled gently, wrapping the ship in a silvery embrace as it slipped away from the glowing shores. The soft twinkle of the stars above seemed to follow, a constellation of memories lighting their path. A keeper stood beside Cael, voice low and steady. Beyond this mist lies a realm where time bends and stories entwine, a place both wondrous and perilous. The next step of your journey awaits. Cael nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon where the mist thickened, promising new mysteries and adventures. With steady hands on the helm and lanterns glowing bright, the ship sailed onward into the unknown, the sea of forgotten roads unfolding like an endless story yet to be told. The mist thickened and deepened, the silver light fading to hues of violet and indigo as the ship crossed the threshold into a realm where day and night seemed to dance together in perpetual twilight. The air was cool and fragrant, filled with the scent of evening blooms and distant rain. Shadows stretched long and soft, weaving between shafts of fading light like gentle fingers brushing the earth. Cael stood at the prow, feeling the delicate balance of light and shadow settling over him. The lantern's flames flickered calmly, steady beacons in the half-light. A keeper's voice drifted through the quiet air. This is the Twilight Realm, a place of transition where beginnings and endings blend and the past and future meet like old friends. Around them, the landscape shifted softly. Trees with silver leaves shimmered against the dim sky, and pools of water reflected stars that seemed not quite real, like echoes of forgotten dreams. The ship moved forward slowly, the waves lapping in gentle rhythms, as if the realm itself breathed with the pulse of time's quiet heart. Cael's thoughts drifted to the journey so far, the lessons learned, the shadows faced, and the light kindled within. Ahead, a faint glow appeared on the horizon, a promise of new paths, new stories waiting to unfold. The ship glided through the shimmering waters of the Twilight Realm, the silver-leaf trees lining the shores swaying gently as if greeting old friends. Their leaves whispered secrets in a language older than time, a soft susurrus that wrapped around Cael like a comforting embrace. Stepping onto the shore, Cael felt the cool earth beneath his feet, the twilight sky above casting everything in a serene, otherworldly glow. The air hummed with quiet magic, and every breath he took seemed to carry a memory. A keeper's voice guided him. These trees remember all that has passed and all that will come. Listen closely, for their whispers hold truths not found in any map or story. Cael closed his eyes, letting the gentle murmur of the leaves wash over him. Images began to form, moments of joy and sorrow, hope and regret, intertwined like the branches themselves. Among the voices, one stood out, a tale of a lost traveler searching for a way home, their journey mirroring Cael's own in ways both familiar and new. The path ahead was uncertain, but the trees' whispers offered guidance, a reminder that even in twilight, light and shadow dance together, and every ending holds the seed of a beginning. The gentle rustle of silver leaves grew clearer, and Cael felt the presence of a story weaving itself around him like a soft cloak. The lost traveler, the voice told, was a wanderer much like himself, caught between worlds and searching for a place to call home. In the vision, the traveler stood at a crossroads beneath a sky swirling with stars and shadows, their heart heavy with longing and hope. They carried a lantern like Cael's, its flame flickering uncertainly as they faced the unknown path. The traveler's journey was marked by trials and discoveries, moments of despair and flashes of joy, encounters with strange creatures, and the quiet kindness of unexpected friends. Yet, despite the hardships, the traveler's light never dimmed, fueled by a steadfast belief that somewhere beyond the horizon lay the answer they sought. As the vision faded, Cael felt a deep connection to the traveler's story, a reflection of his own quest and the strength it took to keep moving forward when the way was unclear. The whispers of the trees faded into a calm silence, leaving Cael with a sense of quiet determination. The lost traveler's story resonated deeply, a mirror of his own journey across the sea of forgotten roads. Cael lifted his lantern higher, its warm light cutting through the twilight shadows like a beacon of hope. He knew the path ahead would be filled with uncertainties, but the strength to face them came from the courage he had gathered along the way. The keeper beside him spoke softly. The Twilight Realm tests the heart, revealing what you carry within. What will you choose, Cael? Cael's gaze swept over the horizon, where the faint glow of dawn threatened to break through the dusk. I choose to carry both light and shadow with me, he said firmly. To walk forward, no matter how unclear the road. The trees around him shimmered in approval, their silver leaves catching the first hints of new light. With a steady heart, Cael returned to the ship, ready to continue the voyage deeper into the mysteries beyond the Twilight Realm. The ship slipped away from the shores of the Twilight Realm, sails billowing in the soft morning breeze. The fading hues of dusk gave way to the pale light of dawn, a gentle promise of renewal and possibility. Cael stood at the helm, the glow of his lantern steady in the quiet air. The sea before them shimmered with the first golden rays, the water reflecting 1,000 colors, like the dreams and memories carried by the voyage. The keepers moved with practiced grace, their voices low as they prepared for what lay ahead. A soft mist began to rise, cloaking the horizon in delicate veils of light and shadow. Beyond the mist, Cael sensed a place both familiar and strange, a land where the boundaries between time and dream blurred. The Vale of Dawn, a keeper whispered, a realm where new beginnings are born and ancient endings find rest. Cael's heart quickened. The journey had led him here, to the cusp of something vast and unknown. With a final glance at the fading stars, the ship sailed forward, cutting through the Vale of Dawn as the new day unfurled around them. The mist of the Vale of Dawn swirled gently around the ship, soft tendrils of light weaving through the air like threads of morning silk. As the vessel glided forward, the mist slowly parted to reveal a sprawling garden bathed in golden light. The garden stretched endlessly, filled with blossoms that shimmered with iridescent hues, flowers that seemed to pulse with life and possibility. The air was fragrant with the scent of renewal, and the gentle hum of growth filled the space. Cael stepped onto the shore, feeling the warmth of fresh earth beneath his feet and the hopeful energy vibrating through the garden. A keeper's voice floated to him. This is the garden of new beginnings, a place where the seeds of the future take root, nurtured by the dreams of those who dare to believe. As Cael walked among the vibrant blooms, he felt the pulse of endless potential, a reminder that every ending was also a chance to start anew. Among the countless blossoms glowing softly in the golden light, one small seedling caught Cael's eye. It was slender and delicate, its leaves shimmering with an iridescent blue that seemed to pulse gently like a heartbeat. Cael knelt beside it, feeling the warmth of the earth and the quiet hum of life within the seedling. The keeper beside him spoke softly. This seedling holds a forgotten dream, one that was nearly lost to time, but still carries the hope of becoming. As Cael reached out to touch the leaves, a vision blossomed before him, a dream of a world where light and shadow danced in perfect harmony, where fears were met with courage and every heart found its song. The dream was fragile, yet filled with immense power, a promise that even the smallest hope could shape the future. Cael's fingers brushed the seedling gently, feeling the pulse of possibility in his palm. The garden of new beginnings whispered around him, its breath full of fresh starts and endless horizons. Cael cradled the iridescent seedling in his hands, feeling its gentle pulse synchronize with his own heartbeat. The garden of new beginnings seemed to lean closer, its vibrant energy encouraging growth and hope. He knelt by the soft earth, planting the seedling in a small clearing bathed in golden light. As he watered the soil with a handful of crystal-clear water drawn from a nearby spring, the seedling began to glow brighter, its leaves unfurling to reveal delicate petals shimmering like stars. The keeper watched with quiet approval. This dream, once forgotten, is now given the chance to bloom. It is a symbol of resilience, that even the faintest hope, when nurtured with care, can blossom into something magnificent. Cael smiled softly, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. He understood that his journey was not only about seeking new paths, but also about tending the dreams that would light the way for others. As the petals of the seedling opened fully, a warm light spread through the clearing, wrapping Cael in a cocoon of gentle radiance, a promise that from this moment, new stories could grow and flourish. The seedling's radiant petals glowed softly in the fading light of the garden of new beginnings, a living promise nestled deep within the soil. Cael took a last, lingering breath of the warm, fragrant air, feeling the gentle pulse of life and hope all around him. The ship awaited at the water's edge, its sails fluttering in anticipation of the next voyage. The keepers gathered quietly, their faces calm and expectant. A keeper stepped forward, voice filled with quiet wisdom. You carry with you the light of a dream reborn, Cael. Let it guide your way through the seas ahead. Cael nodded, the weight of the journey softened by the promise of new beginnings. As he boarded the ship, the seedling's gentle glow nestled safely in his pack, a beacon to nurture and protect. The ship pushed away from shore, cutting through the shimmering waters as the garden of new beginnings faded into the mist behind them. Ahead, the endless sea of forgotten roads stretched wide, waiting for the next story to unfold. The ship sailed steadily beneath a sky brushed with soft pastels of sunset, where colors blended like the pages of an ancient book waiting to be read. The sea shimmered with quiet waves, each ripple carrying whispers of stories yet untold. Cael stood at the prow, the glowing seedling safely tucked away, feeling the steady pulse of hope within his heart. Around him, the keepers prepared the ship for the journey ahead, their faces serene but alert. A keeper approached, voice gentle as the evening breeze. Beyond this horizon lies the realm of endless tales, where every story ever dreamed waits to be discovered and woven anew. The air hummed with anticipation, a chorus of voices rising softly like a distant song. Cael's eyes brightened with resolve. I am ready to listen and learn, to find the stories that will shape the next path. The ship pressed forward, cutting through the twilight waters as the horizon stretched endlessly before them, a vast tapestry of dreams and destinies waiting to be explored. The ship drifted into a vast archipelago of floating islands, each suspended in the air by invisible currents, their surfaces dotted with glowing lanterns and ancient stone pillars. The sky above was alive with swirling winds that carried soft murmurs, whispers of countless stories. Cael stepped onto the nearest island, feeling the gentle breeze that seemed to carry voices from distant times and places. Around him stretched rows of towering shelves carved from shimmering crystal, each filled with delicate scrolls and glowing books. A keeper gestured toward the shelves. This is the Library of Winds. Here, every tale ever told or dreamed is stored, waiting for those who seek to hear, learn, or add their own story. Cael reached out, touching a scroll that shimmered with blue light. As he did, the story unfurled in his mind, a saga of heroes, lost kingdoms, and forgotten magic. The air hummed with possibility, and Cael realized that in this realm, stories were not just remembered. They lived, breathed, and shaped reality itself. As Cael wandered deeper into the crystalline isles, the air grew thick with the melodies of ancient tales, songs that had been sung beneath distant stars and whispered by the winds of time. A figure approached, cloaked in robes woven from threads of starlight and shadow. Her eyes sparkled like constellations, and her voice carried the warmth of countless dawns. I am Leora, keeper of forgotten songs, she said softly. Here, the stories lost to time find their voice once more. Would you hear one? Cael nodded, eager to listen. Leora raised her hands, and the air shimmered as a scroll unrolled itself before them. The tale that unfolded was of a songbird who sang to the moon, weaving light into darkness and hope into despair. The story was more than words. It was a living melody, its notes resonating deep within Cael's soul, filling him with a profound sense of connection and wonder. Leora's voice wove the tale like a delicate thread of silver through the twilight air. The songbird was a creature born of starlight and shadow, its feathers shimmering with every color of the dusk. It sang not with words, but with pure light, each note a glimmer that danced on the breeze. In the story, the moon was a silent guardian, casting a gentle glow over a world caught between night and day. The songbird's melody was the bridge between light and dark, weaving harmony where discord once reigned. Despite the darkness that often sought to silence it, the songbird sang on, its light piercing through the shadows, inspiring hope in the hearts of those who heard. Cael felt the warmth of the song settle deep within him, a reminder that even the faintest light could change the world. As the last note faded, Leora smiled. Every forgotten song has power, Cael, and every story you carry helps to keep that light alive. Cael closed his eyes, letting the melody of the songbird linger in his heart. The story was a gentle reminder that light was not the absence of shadow, but a force that could coexist with darkness, transforming it, softening it, and sometimes even born from it. He thought of the islands he had visited, the memories and dreams he had gathered, and the shadows he had faced along the way. Each step had been a thread in the tapestry of his journey, weaving light into the places where darkness had once held sway. The keeper's words echoed softly. Your path is yours to shape, Cael. The stories you carry and share are the light that will guide others through their own shadows. With renewed purpose, Cael opened his eyes and looked toward the endless shelves of the Library of Winds. Each scroll a story waiting to be discovered, each tale a spark to ignite the soul. As Cael wandered through the labyrinth of glowing shelves, a figure clad in robes of flame and ember approached. His eyes blazed like molten gold, and his presence radiated a fierce warmth that seemed to chase away even the deepest shadows. I am Cael, keeper of courage's flame, he said, voice strong and steady. Here in the Library of Winds, courage is not the absence of fear, but the fire that fuels the will to face it. Cael extended a hand toward a nearby scroll, its edges flickering like a living flame. Would you hear the tale of the brave weaver, whose courage wove the fabric of hope from threads of despair? Cael nodded, drawn to the fiery glow. Cael unrolled the scroll, and the story began, a tale of bravery, sacrifice, and the unyielding spark that kindles even in the darkest night. Cael's voice burned bright as he told the tale of the brave weaver, a humble artisan born in a land shadowed by despair. With nimble fingers and a heart ablaze, she wove threads not just of cloth, but of hope and resilience. Her village was caught in a long night, where shadows whispered doubt and fear. But the brave weaver believed that every thread could carry a spark of courage, every pattern a story of strength. As the darkness closed in, she wove a tapestry so radiant it lit the sky, stitching together the hopes and dreams of her people. Her courage became a beacon, a fire that inspired even the most weary to rise and stand tall. Though the night was long, the brave weaver's flame never faltered, her hands guided by a fierce determination to weave a future where light and courage thrive together. Cael felt the heat of the story settle warmly within him, the spark of courage kindling anew. The ship sailed gently through the sea of forgotten roads, carrying Cael and the keepers away from the shimmering archipelago of the Library of Winds. Above them, the twilight sky stretched wide, a canvas painted with countless stars, each one a story, a dream, a life waiting to be remembered. Cael stood at the helm, the glowing seedling nestled close, a living symbol of hope and renewal. His heart swelled with the tales he had heard, the lessons learned, and the light kindled deep within. He thought of the lost traveler, the songbird weaving light through darkness, and the brave weaver whose courage had ignited a village's hope. All these stories, and countless others, had been threads woven into the tapestry of his own journey, a tapestry that was still being written. The keepers gathered around, their faces serene and full of quiet wisdom. One spoke softly, Cael, every journey is a story. Every story is a light. You have traveled through shadow and dawn, through forgotten dreams and endless tales. Now, it is time to carry that light forward. Cael lifted his lantern, its flames steady and bright. I will carry these stories, he said, voice filled with resolve. Not just for myself, but for everyone who dares to dream. Because in every ending, there is a new beginning, and in every shadow, a spark of light. The ship's sails caught the wind, and the vessel surged forward into the vast, open sea, an endless horizon of possibility. Above, the stars shimmered like the lanterns of 1,000 dreamers, guiding Cael onward. And as the waves whispered their ancient song, Cael knew his story was just beginning. An eternal journey of light, shadow, courage, and hope. Thank you for listening. Sleep peacefully, knowing the light of stories will always guide you through the night. Crescent moon sparkles.